closed
So
it.
as we heard before the break, candidates for parties other than the so-called big three major parties say they have a tough time getting media attention during election campaigns. So tonight we take a small step toward remedying that. Joining us tonight are three of those candidates who are not flying the colors of one of the big three parties, beginning with Nick Wright, candidate for the Green Party in Halifax. Mr. Wright, good evening to you.
Good evening.
Also joining us tonight from Moncton is Ron Pomerleau, who is running for the Canadian Action Party. And good evening to you, Mr. Pomerleau. Thank you.
Good evening.
And in Fredericton tonight, David Amos, who is running as an independent candidate in the federal riding of Fredericton. Mr. Amos, welcome. Good evening to you.
Good day to my fellow Maritimers.
And I'll begin with Mr. Nick Wright in Halifax. I'll begin with you because the Green Party is in fact unique among all of the other parties in that you have candidates in all 308 ridings and significant, albeit single-digit support in most of the polls. And yet it seems the Green Party is battling for acceptance and attention. What exactly is the problem there, Mr. Wright?
Well, I think you find a real distinction between the national perspective and the local perspective. Because nationally, it's the big three, big five private corporations that decide who does and does not participate in the debates. The Green Party is being excluded because they have certain takes on who they want to be included. Mm-hmm. However, at the local level, I know I've found personally, and from the other candidates that I've spoken to, right. Overwhelmingly, we've been included in the debates. We've gotten tons of press coverage. So I think the Green Party really is emerging as a viable alternative to the old three parties and their old platforms.
Let me ask you, you're a young man. What has attracted you to the Green Party?
What appeals to me about the Green Party is that it has new ideas. It looks not just at the short term, but also at the long term. Mm-hmm. We're not just about the environment, although as the Sierra Club of Canada recently said, we do have the best environmental platform. We're also about progressive social policy. We believe in universal public health care, pharmacare, and daycare. For healthcare, we look not just at the short term, but also we look at long-term solutions, prevention, dealing with obesity. We're also fiscally responsible, which means balanced budgets and smart taxation, and again, that environmental emphasis, because we can't drink the water and breathe the air, then the other platforms, the other policies don't really matter.
Fair enough. Mr. Pomerleau, to you, your party, as I recall, was founded by Paul Hellyer, who in his lifetime was a liberal and a conservative, a leadership candidate for both of those parties. What appeals to you about the CAP?
It's the monetary reform policy, and to give you a small example, Steve, just to help you understand, the use of the Bank of Canada today as opposed to the way we used it previous to 1974. Today, the Bank of Canada holds about 5% of national debt. Because of that, it turns over $2 billion a year, profit back to the government or back to all Canadians. What we say is if we went back to the pre-1974 course where at times we held 21%, we would be turning over $8 billion in profit back to the government. And as we go higher, the more money we would get, and therefore we're able to fund all our social programs.
So for you, it's all about the monetary policy?
Yes, it is.
Mr. Amos in Fredericton, even with 15 registered parties in the country representing many and varied philosophies, you are running free of party affiliation as an independent. Why are you independent, and what are you independent from?
I'm a very independent character, and I last time when I ran for Parliament in 2004, I proved my integrity to all parliamentarians and legions of lawyers and public servants. Now I demand they prove their integrity to me before I sue the Crown in federal court here in Fredericton.
What are you going to sue for?
No false imprisonment. While I was running for Parliament last time, I was summoned to the United States of America, falsely imprisoned without being read my rights, and held under the charges of others.
Now, as you know, Mr. Amos, independent candidates in our country usually don't get elected. What message are you sending to the voters of Fredericton just by running?
Not just Fredericton, but I first must apologize to the folks in Oromocto that are expecting to see me right now. But the country in general, and the Maritimes in particular, please stress test the integrity of the parliamentarians before you elect them, because after they're there, they are not accountable.
How do you stress test the integrity of a politician?
Ask them what I'm talking about.
Mr. Pomerleau, even with a party label, you're facing a pretty steep battle as well. How much of what you're doing, running, putting yourself out to the people of Moncton is really a protest of some sort?
No, it's not a protest at all. I think I have a fair chance at winning. There's a 46% undecided voters right now. And I'd like to say that if I was elected and went to Parliament, I'd be the only one among the candidates here that would wield any power. It's going to be a minority government. The leaders of whatever minority government's going to have to negotiate for votes with some of the smaller parties. And I believe I can do an excellent job. Vote for me.
Well, let's talk about power with Nick Wright. In real terms, what would even a small rump of Green MPs be able to accomplish in a parliament that would still be dominated by, the massive caucuses, perhaps even a majority caucus of one of the other parties?
Just getting the Green voice in Parliament is an important component. Right now, as I was saying, we're not looking at the long term, we're just looking at the short term. So we need to get that social progressive policy, that fiscal responsibility, which we don't see in that combination with the other parties. And we have to have a strong environmental message. We have to shift our subsidies away from the oil and gas industries towards renewable resources. We have to focus on health, not just health care. And generally, we have to start thinking in the long term and start looking towards sustainability. And I should add that in this election, and then last, which is the first, each vote gets $1.75 per year.
Yeah.
So it is important. If you vote for the Green Party, you're not just supporting our progressive platform, but you're also building
about
party
money.
Infrastructure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I want to ask each of you before I let you go, when you consider how many voters say they're disenchanted with established parties, why do you think more people don't vote for alternative parties and independents like yourselves? And I'll begin with you, Nick Wright. Why do you think more people don't vote for parties like the Green Party?
Well, for one, we're not including the national debate. And if people aren't aware of the platform, then clearly they can't become educated about it and vote for the party. So I think awareness is the fundamental issue.
Mr. Parmerlo, why do you think historically Canadians haven't opted to vote for your party and other parties in the alternative category?
Well, I think they just don't think there's a chance that we will form a government. But you got to start somewhere, so I would ask the people of Greater Moncton to have the courage and to vote for me this time around.
David Amos, why don't people vote for independence? I think you make a strong case. You're independent, you're free of all of the external influences. Why don't people choose to vote for an independent voice like yours more often?
Most folks vote for the color of the coat. I'm begging the people that have never voted in their life, like me, to please vote and consider me. One independent can keep all parliamentarians accountable.
Did you say you've never voted?
Never in my life, sir.
You don't even vote for yourself?
This time, I would like to vote for myself, but I'm a permanent American resident, and I can't afford to give up my status as an American because I must protect my family's rights and interests there.
You're allowed to run, but you're not allowed to vote?
I'm 18, a proud Canadian, and not in jail. That's all that's required. That's $1,000.
Very interesting talking to the three of you tonight. I appreciate you coming in. Thanks very much to you, Mr. David Amos, independent in Fredericton, Ron Parmerlo, the Canadian Action Party
Thank you very much.
candidate in Moncton, and Nick Wright, the Green Party candidate in Halifax.
Thank you.